Okay, I got the Daisy 840 out, and I was doing some 10 shot groupings just to see how this Daisy 880 is performing. Now, this Daisy 880 is actually a smooth bore, it doesn't have rifling, so technically you can't call it a rifle, but we'll call it that because it looks like one. But anyway, I've got a 3 to 9 by 32 scope on there, and the power setting I set on it was 9, and there's a UTG offset mount there on this Daisy 840. Before you start the test, what I would do is you want to warm it up a little bit by firing a few shots first, because just like with other rifles, when you're working on a cold bore, and actually the chamber in here is kind of cold when you start, when you're working on a cold bore and stuff like that, you always want to run a few through first. So, and also make sure you oil that pad there. Every 100 shots or so, put a drop in there, because your shots are going to fall if you don't oil it. Another thing is when you're pumping it, if you open it up real quick and pump it quickly, you lose some of the air. So what I would do is when you're opening it up, let it sit for about a second and get all that air, and then close it. If you pump too fast, actually what you're doing is as you're pulling this open, what it does is it sucks some of the air out really quickly. And when you close it back up really quick, you're stopping it from allowing to fill. So your shots are going to start going low or high or something like that. So you don't want that. Okay, so out of a 10 shot group, I was getting 3/4 of an inch best at 15 yards. That's what I could get best out of a 10 shot group. So 3/4 of an inch. If you do this over and over again, you'll find that it's going to vary. For instance, this is 1 inch center to center. This is 1 inch center to center here. After I measured it, you can expect 1 1/4 down to what I have here, about 750. And then at 25 yards, what happens is this pellet is going kind of slow. Actually, at 25 yards, this pellet would be doing 219 feet per second. So it's barely got speed in it left. So as the speed drops, you can expect groups to open up a little bit too. But for 25 yards, it's not too bad that the majority of the shots stay within a 2.5 inch group. And you can see if it was a 3.5 inch group, it would be right here. So this is still gonna be a pop can buster at 25 yards. And let me read off this sheet to you here. But before I do that, I want to show you the pellet I'm using. It's an RWS R10 7 grain competition pellet. These are one of the best groupings that I've been getting out of the Daisy 840 so far. You guys might have some pellets that work for you, but these work for me. One thing that's good about the 7 grain RWS R10 is if you look at the skirts, I don't know if I can hold it just right. If you look at the skirts, what they've done, even though it's a lightweight pellet, what they've done is they put some thickness in the skirt there. I don't know if you can see that thickness. And that's one of the key successes of this lightweight wad cutter, is when they made it light, they made sure not to reduce the skirt, because you need a good skirt. Once you get a dented skirt, you're going to have a pellet wobbling on you, and it's not going to be very efficient in flight. So there's the R10. Them run about $16, I think, maybe for 500 or something like that. The RWS Basics run about $6.99. The Basics can keep up with the R10, for maybe 50 shots or something like that. But if you're doing hundreds and hundreds of rounds, the R10 eventually is going to win for groupings, because it's more quality controlled. So anyway, let me show you the sheet here. I'll read some information for you and go through some of this stuff here. So it's a Daisy 880. It's a smooth bore. And it's 3 to 9 by 32, and the setting is 9x. The scope height, this is used for your software for calculating drop and stuff, like a Hawk Scope website. They have a thing that you can use to calculate drop and trajectory and stuff like that. The scope height is 2 inches. Now, when you measure scope height for software, you want to measure it from the crosshair to the center of the bore. So the center of the bore to the crosshair. That's how you want to measure scope height. Okay, and our pellet, 7-grain RWS R10 pellet. Okay, we got 750 center to center, 3/4 of an inch. Muzzle velocity is 300 feet per second after 25 yards, 219 feet per second. And I have done some Crony setups in the yard at 25 yards, and I can verify that it does drop to somewhere around 200 feet per second. Energy in foot-pounds, 1.4. Ballistic coefficient is 0.010. That's typical for a lot of 177 wad cutters. The range is 15 yards. The 0 is 15 yards. Now, the flattest trajectory on this pellet, some pellets it's different, but the flattest trajectory on this pellet without having to fiddle with your scope is 15 yards. That means you're going to have a flatter curve. You know, you're not going to have a big loopy curve like this. You're going to have something that's a little flatter out to about 15 yards. So the range is 15 yards for this shot here. The 0 is 15 yards. Then once you get to 20 yards, you're going to have a 2-inch drop. So let me get my ruler here. Okay, so 2-inch drop from that center there. That's at 20 yards. At 25 yards, you're going to have a 5.76-inch drop. And if you have a good scope, you can use the mil-dot reticle, or you can adjust the turret and max it out sometimes. So there's, if you look on here, 5, quite a drop. And then 11, whoa, that's like a foot. And then at 35 yards, you're going to get a 19-inch drop. But some scopes can handle that. Some scopes can actually handle that kind of drop. Now, this drop was calculated with some software. And the software isn't perfect. It can be off sometimes. But I can guarantee you, after 25 yards, you're going to see where the pellet is starting to fall out of view of your scope, because it's just getting too far away. But you can, on some scopes, I don't know about this one, but I got another scope. I was hitting out to 35 yards or further. But like I said, you got a pretty good drop there. But anyway, enough said on that. So if you're doing shot groups, let's say you do a 3-shot group and you get a 1/2 inch, that's good and stuff. But the thing is, you want to do a 10-shot group, because you want to find out what the consistency of the rifle is. So the more shots you fire, the more you can predict what the rifle's going to do for you. You know, if somebody fired a shot in a 1/4 inch target at 15 yards and they stopped right there, they could say, oh, 1/4 inch accuracy at 15 yards. Well, that's only one shot. So I believe in having several shots to prove accuracy in any rifle. And for me, that would be about 10 shots. I don't believe in this 3-shot clover leaf, although you guys see me do that sometimes. But it's nice and pretty, but you still got some other rounds you got to run through. So you might be consistent for a couple shots, but after a while you're going to see some changes. So I think a 10-shot group is a real good way to know exactly what the rifle is going to do for you. For instance, based off these sheets that I shot at 25 yards, I found that a proper target for the 840 would be a 3-inch target. So that would be a pop can. I I've got an electrical socket cover made of metal out in the yard at 25 yards, and that's about 3 inches across and about 4 1/4 long, about the same size as this group here. So if you fired a shot at that target, you would hit it probably every time, or if you didn't have it hit it every time, you would hit it most of the time. And I found that to be true out in the yard. So you never want to put a target out there that's smaller than the accuracy that the rifle gives you. You may hit it, but you're not going to hit it 10 out of 10. So when you're adjusting your scope now, when you're doing zeroing at 15 yards, what you want to do is you want to fire the groups first and then adjust your click values to come up or down. If you just fire one shot, like let's say if you go off this shot, and then you look at your scope and you start fiddling with the knobs, and you try to make it go up here, well, you don't know where the next shot is going to go. Sometimes the shots go over here, sometimes they go here, 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 here. So you're best to fire all 10 shots, look at the group, and then move it up. And that's what I did on the second one here. So I shot all these and I found I could go up 1/4 inch. So took the click values, went up 1/4 inch, and look what happened. Magically, everything kind of centered out there. So that's how you adjust your scope. That's how you zero your scope. If you, once again, if you zero your scope based off one shot, look at this one at 25 yards now. You know, the zero for this rifle at 25 yards is a 3-inch circle. If you, for instance, were to take this shot right here and start adjusting your scope to come up here, well, the next shot might be over here. The next shot would be here, here, here. You just don't know where it's going. So that's why you want to fire all 10 shots. And you can see that the majority of the 10 shots are within the center right here at 25 yards. So that means that you can't adjust the scope or zero it any better than your group size. So always remember that. Never adjust the scope beyond your group size. Once you fire 10 shots, if your 10 shots surround your point of aim, your dot or whatever, then you're good. That's the best you can do with your zero. But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video on this Daisy 840. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Done a lot of experiments on this little thing. I know it's cheap and stuff, you know, plastic rifle or whatever, but hey, you gotta put them through the paces, see what you can get out of them anyway. So it's fun for me to experiment and push it to its limits and see exactly what I could do with it. So thanks very much for watching.